जय श्री राम फ्रेंड्स, वेलकम टू भारत मार्ग। भारत मार्ग में आपका स्वागतम। हमारा साथ हैं रंजन जी, राजन जी हैं हमारा साथ, चीफ एक्सप्लोरर ऑफ ग्लोबल इंडियन नेटवर्क। उनके लिए भी बहुत बहुत स्वागतम। ओके, वेलकम राजन जी। Thank you for joining Bharat Marg after a while. Today we are going to discuss about a very very important subject, folks. हमारा सब्जेक्ट है पाकिस्तान में जो अफगान रेफ्यूजीज को किकआउट किया जाता है, इसके बारे में हमारा गहरी चर्चा होगा। Our question to Rajan ji is very simple. That is no Muslim love in Pakistan as far as kicking out Afghan refugees are concerned. Okay. This is the thing, folks. Pakistan wants to send Muslim bomb to put on Israel, but rounds up the Afghan refugees for deportation. ये इसके बारे में we will ask about how their hypocrisy is, what he thinks about it, and we will talk. And you had to keep in mind, okay, Rajan ji has traveled more than 70 countries, and he works on the humanitarian causes, humanitarian refugee issues he talks on, and operating from UK, folks. We are very lucky to have him. Okay, for sure you will enjoy. Okay, but before going further, please अपना जो चैनल है, ये वीडियो है, इसको लाइक कीजिएगा, कमेंट कीजिएगा, शेयर कीजिएगा, जितना भी लोगों से हो सकता है शेयर कीजिएगा। और ये अगर अभी तक नहीं किया तो भारत मार्ग चैनल को सब्सक्राइब करें, बेल आइकन दबा के हमसे जुड़ें। और इसके अलावा हमारा हर दिन का एक धार्मिक मैसेज भी आती है, बहुत सारा लैंग्वेज, इट्स गोस आउट इन मल्टीपल लैंग्वेजेस अराउंड द वर्ल्ड। यू कैन नाउ गेट इट बाय सेंडिंग अ व्हाट्सएप टू +1647 964 4790 and get the related Sanatan related message in your WhatsApp so that you and your family can be connected to the roots of Sanatan. Okay, Rajan ji, आपके लिए बहुत बहुत स्वागतम. Okay, thank you for joining us. I have some real, it's a very very horrible situation. I'm just going to explain the hypocrisy, and I am going to ask the question. Okay, see here, the Afghan people were kicked out. Their properties were robbed. They have been kicked out of their own homes. ओके, जो भी मिला उसको, मींस मैं जिस लोगों से भी बात कर रहा था, वो लोग ऐसा बोल रहे थे कि उधर का सिचुएशन इतना बुरा है कि जैसा 1947 में हिंदुओं और सिखों के साथ हुआ था पार्टीशन का समय में, वैसा है, खतरनाक है। ये बोलते हैं कि तुम्हारा घर छीना जाता है, प्रॉपर्टीज छीना जाता है, बच्चों को मारा जाता है और इनको भगाया जाता है। मगर अब आ गया जरा सा इसमें क्लाइमैक्स में, इंडिया में ऐसा किए हिंदुओं सिख के समय, ऐसा करने के समय इधर बैठे रहे दो नेता जो नेतागिरी कर रहे थे भारत में, वो है गांधी और नेहरू। मगर अफगान में तालिबान का चलता है, तो इसलिए इनका जरा दिक्कत है। How do you see this? Everybody is quiet. When India brought CAA to bring to send out the illegal the guys out, the liberal media was opposing it, but now everybody is quiet. How do you see it? It's your platform, is yours, sir.
A lot of weight in the shoulders there. First and foremost, it's good to be here, and thank you very much for inviting me on your fantastic show. To kick off beginning, I'm not an expert on Pakistani current affairs, but I can only speak about my own experiences and my understanding, so at least there's a caveat there. I think when the issue happened with India, the reason why the world was up in uproar was because they saw it as a cancelling out of democratic values. And I'm neither here to protect or condemn a country, but I think that what we're seeing here is the erosion of what nationalistic values should be, where it supports all people of a nation, not some of a particular religion or some of a particular caste, but all members of human beings that happen to be born in the country. Now, coming to Pakistan, just so your audience know, the government of Pakistan put out a statement earlier last month saying that if you are an illegal refugee living in Pakistan, you must leave, and you must leave by the beginning of November. What that essentially means is that there's over 4.4 million Afghanis that live in Pakistan. 1.7 million of them are seen as being illegal. They are being forcibly kicked out of Pakistan as we speak to make way towards back to Afghanistan. Now, this isn't the first time it's ever happened. Many people will not realize, but the same thing has happened over the course of 2016, where over 500,000 Afghans were kicked out of Pakistan. In 2017, where 150,000 were kicked out, and in 2018, where 50,000 were kicked out. What the Pakistani government is saying is that out of all the suicide bombs that have taken place in Pakistan, especially amongst those borders with Afghanistan, the figures are 14 out of the 24 suicide bombers were Afghani individuals. And they're saying that Afghanis, through the Taliban, are allowing these radicalized Muslims to come in and commit these issues. Where the hypocrisy is, it's Pakistan as a nation is highly doctrinated by religious values, and that's something we start to see happen right the way across the globe. These blasphemy laws that are being brought into Pakistan not only are eradicating the freedom of speech, but it's also clamping down on journalistic integrity. People are scared to talk up. But alongside that, we're also starting to see deplorable actions being taken against people who are Sufi, the Sufi community. So, as much as Pakistan saying on one side that we believe in the Islamic Brotherhood and we're going to support the Palestinians, on the other side, we can see that actions are not that of an Islamic nation or Islamic type of brotherhood, but more of political leverage. And I think that's the danger that the world should see. Unlike what happened with India, where you had the CIA issue, right now you're dealing with Palestine and Israel, where you're having millions of children being murdered on one side, but there's also devastation and destruction on both sides of the border. And it's coming down to the local people. But because this is taking place, I think the world's attention is there and not looking at some of the deplorable activities taking place in Pakistan as well. I think that's where the sadness is.
But see, this is what is happening. Okay, I want to ask you something about outside of Pakistan. Okay, when India told, when Bharat ne bola कि ये जो रोहिंग्या का जो गैंग है इधर आके लूटबाजी करते हैं भारत में, ओके, जो जो क्राइम का हड्डा बना दिए भारत को, उसको बाहर करने का समय आया तो एनआर ये जो नेशनल आइडेंटिटी कार्ड लेके आने ये सब के लिए ये जो खालिस्तानी गैंग है, ये जो यूके पार्लियामेंट जो अब ह्यूमैनिटेरियन का कास का झंडा उठाता है, ये पाकिस्तान जो था, ये सारे लोग एक साथ मिलके आवाज दी ये तो बुरा है, अभी तो कोई नहीं बात करता है, ऐसा कैसा?
Okay, so there's a lot spoken there, and I think we know each other well enough to also respect each other's viewpoints. For me, I think the vast majority of governments out there are crazy. You change their religion, you change their identity, they are all the same ilk. They will utilize religion as a social lubricant to maintain power, whether that's in Pakistan, whether that's in India, or whether that's in any other country. The reality is, politicians are utilizing catastrophes for personal gain. That being said, I understand the viewpoint that you have saying, well, why is there selective moral outrage? When something happens in a country like India, well, why are we not standing up to attest the catastrophes of that in other countries such as Pakistan? And I agree with that. I think the fact is, when you look at the news reports on the ground in Pakistan, the people who are being attacked are not just strong Afghani individuals. These are kids. They're women. And furthermore, what they're being told is that they're not allowed to take anything with them, not even a bag of sugar. This is one of the worst humanitarian crises of our time. Yes, let's not forget Pakistan had floods and over 40 million people were affected. But the fact that you are forcibly removing 1.4 million individuals in the name of I don't understand what, but at the same time professing your love for your religion and saying that we want to see this Islamic Brotherhood, I think that there is a bit of a hypocrisy there, unfortunately. And I think it's something that the world needs to look at and say, a humanitarian crisis is when a human being, a fellow sentient being like us, en masse are going through something that is extraordinary hardship. What is happening in Pakistan right now, unfortunately, with the Afghan refugees, is a humanitarian crisis. We have to treat humanity as one, and as such, we also have to call out the ill actions of governments the same resounding voice. Baji, if this happened in India, I will still be the same way inclined. I think you know that. The reality is, a flag on a nation does not make you immune by being an idiot. And I think we know that from now. But the reality is, if you are a leader in a party, in a country, your job and your duty is to support every echelon of that society, regardless of their religion. And that's what we're not seeing right now in a country like Pakistan. And it is a shame.
I have two questions for you here, okay? And आप जो बोल रहे थे उसमें दो सवाल है मेरा. एक है, ये जो यूके पार्लियामेंट है, जो झंडा उठाया था भारत के खिलाफ, वो किधर अभी सो गया क्या? या सिर्फ उनका जो आंदोलन है वो सिर्फ भारत के खिलाफ है? ओके, ह्यूमैनिटेरियन ये वो बल के, ओके, जिसका कोई राइट्स नहीं था भारत के बारे में बात करने के लिए, कोई राइट्स नहीं था, अब चुपचाप बैठा है.
It's true. You got a valid point. I think though, see, this is where the murky parts are. Baji, as we know, there's a good reason, there's a bad reason, and the truth sometimes lies in the middle. Nobody knows quite understandingly what's happening around the globe. Sometimes you have government forces, sometimes you have far right extremists on all sides of the world that are doing some of the most horrific, terrible things. So I understand your sentiment saying, well, if something happens in England and something this bad, everybody goes up in arms and everyone's in the streets saying this is wrong and let's condemn, let's condemn, let's condemn. Why is the same thing not happening like a country like Pakistan? And the straightforward answer is, I don't know why. I don't know if it's because of what's happening with Palestine and Israel, and maybe that is in the news cycle, and that could be a legitimate thing. Or I don't know whether it's a case of selective moral outrage that all are born equal, but some are more equal than others. And I think that might be the case right now as well, whereby they're saying these lives matter a lot, but these lives, well, they're not as important compared to what's happening on this side. And I really hope that's not the case, because I think if it is the case, we are seeing the end of what our civilization should be, where we can't see past religion to see our humanity. But I don't know. I don't know the answer.
Absolutely. And I see, when there was any calamity, including the earthquake right now that happened in Afghanistan, जो भी हुआ था, ओके, सारे समय उनके लिए जो ह्यूमैनिटेरियन नीड है भारत से जाता है. उसके पास वाला पाकिस्तान कुछ नहीं करता है. ओके, जो भारत का ऊपर उंगली उठाते हैं यूके कुछ नहीं करता है. ओके, कनाडा कुछ नहीं करता है. ओके, अमेरिका कुछ नहीं करता है. ये पूरा ह्यूमैनिटेरियन एड गोस फ्रॉम इंडिया. ओके, और इसके अलावा मैं एक बात मेरा सवाल खत्म कर देता हूं. ओके, बट एंड डे बिफोर यस्टरडे तालिबान गेव बहुत सीरियस वार्निंग दिया था पाकिस्तान को, ऐसा हमारा लोगों के ऊपर मददमारी मत करो, हम देख के चुप नहीं बैठेंगे. और उनका वार प्लेन्स को उड़ाया गया. उसी दिन 4 जगह में पाकिस्तान आर्मियों का मौत हुआ, इनको मारा गया. Okay, how do you see it? Now they are scared.
I think the problem that we see, if we take out the rhetoric of politics and we take out this nationalistic thing of India and Pakistan, let's for a moment forget that borders existed, that the Brits did this to us, and imagine that we're all as one. In that voice, I think what the issue is in Pakistan is that you have an interim government that's come in. This interim government, whose policy should not be to dictate the movement of people, are choosing to move the dictation of movement of people. I think that's the first thing that we have to see. The government in Pakistan is an interim government. It shouldn't be doing things like this. I think the second part, the fact that Afghanistan have turned around and saying, look, the people who are committing terrorism in your soil are not refugees from Afghanistan, is one thing. The second thing, the fact that the Taliban have put out this statement to Pakistan saying, look, do not do this to our citizens. We will come at you. This is not a good idea. And now Pakistan's starting to move backwards is another. There's another side to this, though. And this is what we always say on our platform. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you also have to have a look at the money. Pakistan's economy is not doing very well. And generally speaking, what happens right the way across the globe when economies are not doing well It's so much easier, especially when it comes to politics, to pick a fight on somebody else. That way, you can say the problems in this country is not to do with our inadequacies as a government, but it's down to the fact that these people have come over and they're ruining our society. And I think that's another thing to play for. The fact that they're trying to kick out 1.4 million innocent individuals, it could be just another political play as well. And I think that's one thing that we need to look at. But I get the sentiment. It's wrong. And the globe should wake up unitedly and say it's wrong. I think once we can do that, we can stop this eradication that we're seeing.
एब्सोल्युटली. मगर पाकिस्तान को तो अभी पता होगा कि ये गांधी नेहरू नहीं है जो बैठे हुए हैं. जब हिंदुओं और सिखों के खिलाफ जो अत्याचार हुआ था 1947 में, जब देख के बैठने वाला गांधी नेहरू नहीं है, ये इनका डीलिंग तालिबान है.
Yeah, but on the other side, if we make this really nationalistic, so the national language of Pakistan is Urdu, correct? Now, the amount of people that speak the national language of Pakistan is something like 30%. The vast majority don't. Most people in India and most people in Pakistan, they didn't even know what partition was. Partition was an instrument by the Brits, and it was pushed through.
मगर कितना लोग मारे गए थे? 4 million people मारे गए थे.
And it was one of the most horrific things that happened in the history of the subcontinent. And my point being is this, Baji, it's the average human being in India, the average human being in Pakistan, what do they want? They just want a life. They want to have a house over their head. They want food in their stomach. They want education.
मैं उसके बात नहीं कर रहा हूँ. ये इंडिया का लीडरशिप उस वक्त गांधी नेहरू में के हाथ में था, जो चुपचाप देख के बैठे रहे. ये तो सच है.
Yeah, but Baji, even if we discuss that, how is it going to change the present day situation?
Yeah, Taliban will not do that, I'm saying. Taliban will respond back.
Yeah,
they are not Gandhi Nehru. That's what I mean to say.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. And I think the Taliban would. And I think the Taliban have a lot to prove to the world, because right now, every government around the globe is saying the Taliban is a despot nation. Now, if the Taliban can turn around to the global elites and saying, this is what's happening to our citizens in this foreign country of Pakistan, and we're going to stand up for their rights, I think what they'll be doing then is demonstrating their own economic and public diplomacy. And I think the world will be scared of that, because that means then they have to acknowledge the Taliban, and that means they're going to have to start entering more agreements with them. Let us not be fooled. Behind the smoke and mirrors of politics and national identity and religiousness, people still do business together. One thing that you may not realize is that, did you know Pakistan, Israel, and Turkey were on the same side of a war before? So when there was a war with the Armenians, those three countries came together, the countries that you would never expect to come together in any sense. So war, politics, and money has a weird way of making friends. And I think looking at what's happening with the Taliban, it'll be really interesting to see what happens there.
Absolutely. Actually, मैं ये एक बात पूछना चाहता हूँ. See, when you are talking about Turkey, okay, जब टर्की में earthquake आया था, पहला कंट्री जो ह्यूमैनिटेरियन एड भेजा वो भारत था. पहला, first country to send out. And now to Palestinian, first country to send out the humanitarian aid. Okay.
Yeah. And what's the point?
And Pakistan is saying, we have bomb for the Muslim country. That's what the people said. What we have, the nuclear bomb is for Muslim. It's a Muslim bomb. जो मुस्लिम के खिलाफ जंगा करेंगे उनके ऊपर लगाने के लिए हम रखे हुए हैं. ये ऐसा नहीं होगा. मतलब ये हिपोक्रेसी क्या है? ये इजराइल को अटैक करना चाहते हैं मगर अफगान को बाहर करना चाहते हैं.
You are absolutely correct. The hypocrisy is there. And here's the other part of the hypocrisy. In Pakistan, the vast majority of people who are died because of the blasphemy law have been Muslims. The vast majority of people who have been attacked in the suicide bombs are Muslims, people that are Sufis, for example. The vast majority of people who are in the streets of Pakistan, who sometimes find themselves at odds with the law and have to pay bribes, are Muslims. And this is where the problem is. The moment that countries continue to use religion as a social lubricant for national identity is the moment we're going to continue seeing this come forward. It comes back to what I said before, is that whole idea that the world, that everyone is born equal, but some are more equal than others. And that's what we're seeing in the case of Pakistan. Pakistan as a nation, I'm sure, is a country. If we take religion out of a country, it's just people, it's landscapes, we're all one people. But the problem is, across the globe right now, we're seeing the rise of the far right. And the rise of the far right will discriminate against any other country. But in Pakistan's case, they're also discriminating against their own co-religionists. And it is hypocrisy. And the world needs to talk more about it. People should be up in arms. I'm not Muslim myself, you're not Muslim yourself, but yeah, it affects us because we see past religion and we say this is a humanitarian issue. You can't be forcing 1.4 million other human beings out of your nation. It's not right. It's not ethical. And I hope that the rest of the world will see it that way. This is not a Pakistan issue. This is not an Afghanistan issue. This is a human being issue. It's the same factors that we see across the globe. There's people who have, the politicians and big businesses, and there's people who are striving to have better lives. We all deserve a better life on this planet. And unfortunately, a lot of the politicians, like what we're seeing in Pakistan, are not allowing that to happen.
And Rajan ji, ये बोलिएगा कि Ziaul Haq, when he was a general of Pakistan, okay, Jordan के बुलावे में जाके, he murdered more than 25,000 Palestinians, okay, जिसका बोला जाता है Palestinian butcher, okay, and now they are talking about Palestinian अपना भाई है, इसके बारे में कैसा सोच रहे हैं आप?
But that's the thing. What I mean, it's as much as I think a lot of the audience will love it to be the case of let's bash Pakistan and say how bad they are.
No, it's not about how bad. It's a hypocrisy. That's what. I told you about UK too.
But the UK, we have a lot to blame for some of the big world's issues. Not the UK people, not the British people, but the institutions that were there at the time carry a lot of blame for what took place. In Pakistan, the people who carry the blame is the government of Pakistan. And we need to remember that, like every country around the world, the blame has to be on the governments because they force themselves in, they stay there, and then they make up ludicrous laws and policies that affect everyone else. But you're right, the hypocrisy is there. The fact is, a country who bases themselves on a religious ideal, whose laws are in statute over religion, who believe in the Islamic Brotherhood, how can they then allow people of their same co-religion list to kick them out in mass numbers of 1.4 million people? How can they then allow these children to be beaten up at the borders?
And stealing all their properties and possessions. Yeah, that's what it is.
That's what they're doing. And they're leading them to certain starvation. And do you know who's to blame for this as well? It's the people like the Commonwealth. It's people like the United Nations. There are things that you sign up for, especially when it comes to the treaties of humans, that have been broken time and time again, and no one's done anything. No one stood up to say, we're going to now kick you out. The Commonwealth has done nothing. We're all members of the Commonwealth, but they have been silent, and the silence is deafening. Anytime their voice should come up, it disappears, and that's what the big fears are. The issues that we're seeing in Pakistan is happening there at this moment in time. But mark my words, it could happen in Congo tomorrow. The next day, it happened in places like Uganda. If you remember, over 80,000 Indians were kicked out. It happened in other countries across the globe. This is why it's important, because religion does not make you immune from being an idiot. Your national borders does not make you immune from being an idiot. We have to stick together as human beings. And religion has to take a backseat sometimes as well.
But let's talk about one of the best human beings in the entire world. At least he believes that way. Okay, is Mr. Ravi Singh. You know him, who puts langar. He was putting langar in the farmer protest. He was putting langar in CAA protest. But he is not putting any langar in Afghan people when they are getting kicked out. How do you see that?
I don't know. I don't know if he is or not. That's the thing.
No, he is not. I can say you.
Ravi's been on the podcast and he's been on the show a few times on our side. I don't know if he is or not. And so therefore it's very difficult for me to say.
No, he is not. He is not. I can guarantee you. They are busy in UK. Yeah.
I have no idea. That's the reality of it. If I had an answer, for a fact I would provide an answer.
Right.
But the reality is I don't know. One thing that Ravi has done, and which I do deeply appreciate, is the fact that when he started off CASA Aid, he went to countries like Sudan, he went to Somalia, And we're talking back 30 years ago. He went to some of the war-torn countries and he actually did stuff. Now, I know people may have a viewpoint of him, but what I choose to do is like me and you. We both have media platforms. We don't always see eye to eye, but we appreciate each other because we know what we do comes from the heart, it comes from integrity.
Right.
So that's the thing. I can't judge what Ravi's doing or
No,
not
no,
doing.
I am not talking about him putting it in Somalia or anywhere, but I never saw him when the Sikh were butchered, Sikh leadership was butchered in Afghanistan. I never saw him going and putting langar there. I never saw him putting langar in Pakistan. When the Sikh people were kicked out, their girls were raped, their girls were kidnapped. I never saw Ravi Singh going there and standing.
I can't be in a platform to talk about a charity that has only been on our platform to talk about that idea of identity. I don't think it's fair for you. It's not fair for your audience. And it certainly wouldn't be fair for Khalsa Aid, because that way I'm putting it into dispute. That is a conversation between you and Ravi, in all fairness. But what I can say, if we're going down the line of saying good humanitarians, I don't think that there's one single person who's a great humanitarian. I think that job, that custodianship lies in every human being's heart. If we wake up in the morning time, if we go to sleep in the evening, we have a moral duty as human beings to be a better person for the people on the planet, regardless of our religions. Now, look, during the times of the floods in Pakistan, I know the whole world got together and they donated money towards Pakistan because people didn't see the flag, they didn't see the religion, they saw the hardship. And what I would like to see now is those people who did put money towards the floods then turning around to the government saying, in the same name of humanitarianism, where we helped and supported you, why are you not lending that same hand to the 1.4 million families that call Pakistan home, who are in desperate need and who are you kicking out? That's what the world should be doing. But I get it, there is select moral outrage in the globe in which we now live.
Absolutely. See, my goal is not to pinpoint Ravi Singh here, but I just want to show the hypocrisy from various angles. That's all my goal was. I spoke about everybody who had double play.
But coming to Ravi Singh again, I cannot speak about what they're doing as a charity, whether they are doing something there or not, because I don't know, in all honesty. But I do know one thing about Ravi, having spoken to him before. If they are doing something, they don't always showcase things on their platforms. They're the type of people that when they go into a country, they do it, and then they think, okay, great, let's get it out there.
I know they are not doing it there. That's why I brought this up.
Yeah. They may not, but I don't know.
Yeah, no, you don't know. But I am just, you see, basically I brought how the Pakistans were having a double say. I covered everything on this. Okay, so he was one of the entity here.
I think the danger is, and I can see where this may be coming into, but I know that you would never do this either. The way that people are looking at the Pakistan issue is that they're saying, well, hang on, Pakistan has supported certain movements that seem to be on the surface anti-Indian. And now all of a sudden, people should be calling out that hypocrisy. And I get that that's a knee-jerk reaction. All I'm asking your audience to do is forget about the politics and think about the human beings. These are 1.4 million individuals. They could have been me. They could have been you. It could have been Kashmir many years ago. It could have been what happened in Punjab. It could be what happened in Mauritania. They're human beings. They're kids. They don't deserve this.
But, for 70 years, India had a very weak leadership. Okay. And these guys can use them as a doormat. There is no question about it. But that's not Taliban. That's all I'm saying. You dealt with India.
I agree with it. It's not the Taliban. And
when you are dealing with Taliban, you are going to have a bloody nose.
I think the thing with the Taliban is what they came out with a statement is saying that, look, the people who are committing these atrocities are not refugees. And as much as we can kind of sympathize and then glorify these guys and saying, great, now they're going to give back, you have to also imagine the problem is that what government across the globe, you name any government, honestly, with your hand on heart, who have done the best for all the people of a society, is a very few. And this is the challenge that we're now facing. The humanitarian issue taking place in somewhere like Pakistan, mark my words, it could happen in any other country out there in the globe. We have to stop seeing religious lines. As much as I know people say other people look at us with the religious vibes, but we can choose not to do that.
नो,
We
इस
have
पे
to
रिलीजियस वाइज
come.
कुछ भी नहीं है ना, ये भी
Yeah,
मुसलमान है, वो भी मुसलमान है, इस पे किधर रिलीजन आ गया? सब
yeah.
मुसलमान है.
They are, but there's obviously different factors. You have the Shiites and the Sunnis, but I do understand what you're saying. My viewpoint, I think, for your audience is what's happening in Pakistan, the world needs to know more about. And in a world where we have select moral outrage, where some lives seem to be far more important than others, we need to shine a big light on this to say 1.4 million lives in that nation matter. And then at the same token, what we're seeing with Israel and Palestine is rather than taking sides of those who are flying the flag of one country or the other one, just think for a moment. When the politicians leave factors, it's going to be the average day people like you and I who are going to be living in the grounds there. They deserve better. In this
Absolutely.
world, we all deserve a better life. We can no longer
Absolutely.
live in the way that we are.
Absolutely. Thank you, Raviji, for joining us and pouring your heart and saying everything what you believe in. And
It's
I
Rajan.
want to take this time to thank you and also pray for those innocent lives that are getting kicked out and strangled and of Afghans who gets in the name of kicking out to Afghan back, going through all the things. We pray that God will give them strength and courage. And of course, Taliban will make sure that they are getting the justice.
I think more so, rather than looking at revenge, I think we need to pray for common sense in a world where common sense is everything but common. We can no longer be living in a fractured society in which we live. Raji, the reality is we have our religions now. In 3,000 years ago, there were probably different religions. In 5,000 years, there's going to be different religions. But as humanity, we're always going to be one, regardless of what the separation that we think is going to be there. But at this moment in time, where the world is starting to crack aside because of politics, we have to come together. And my belief is that this is a case of those who have and those who do not have. And those who do not have to rally together to make the positive changes for society. We need to
Absolutely.
stop religious-based countries.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Rajan ji. थैंक यू हमें हमसे जुड़ने के लिए. दोबारा बहुत जल्दी दोबारा मिलेंगे. तब तक के लिए जय जय श्री राम, जय श्री राम. Appreciate it
No,
very
I
highly.
appreciate you. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna.